it's trying like to fit it in a spot where it's like there's been this huge, awesome, amazing song, and then I mean, my first songs I could say they're mediocre because I was still trying to learn, right? So you have this much amazing song, and then you have like this much low, like your song, which is not as well produced and stuff.
Welcome back to Metaverse Degen. I'm blind.
I'm old man Raptor, and we got one hell of a guest. What's the shit that's sitting next to me? But it's not our guest, and that is.
Hi, my name is Grin. I am a VRDJ slash producer. I create tear out and do a whole lots of other stuff, I guess.
Oh, wow. Well,
Open boat.
I have lots of
Wow, we got an
questions.
open boat to play.
I guess
We're
so.
gonna have fun with this one. We're
I've
gonna have fun, folks.
Well, I have lots of questions. I'll start with what's tear out. I have no idea what that is.
Oh, so tear out is a genre of dubstep, right? It's like imagine metal and dubstep, and you grab a trash can lid and then you slam them all togetger, right? And
Ooh.
that's the sound that you get, which is tear out, right? It's
You
a
had me
lot
sold that metal.
more. it's a lot more oh, there you go. It's a lot more chaotic and stuff.
I thought chaotic, man. Your neighbors are probably bitching that you're slamming garbage can lids together, making all the noise. Holy shit! Fuck, I'd be pissed. Goddamn, who's beating on the garbage can lids? Oh, it's just the guy next door. He's just rapping. It's okay. Don't get calm down. Don't have a fit. Should see what he takes when he gets the plastic lids. That's even a lot crazier.
So, question for you is, what got you started in VR and making music and DJing, may I ask?
Oh shit, it's Grin.
So, I actually been making music for like actually a pretty long while, right? When at the age of like 13, I picked up a guitar and started playing, right? Mostly inspired by my dad, right? He was in a band and I was the roadie for that band, so that kind of got me into like the punk scene, right? And being that inspired, when I turned 15, that's when I just really started to like DJ, right? And it was more of a way to try to getting invited to like parties and stuff, right? Because I didn't really get invited to parties in high school. I was a loser. So that didn't work out. But the DJing stayed. So over time, right, I would take kind of like breaks here and there, but then when I turned 18, that's when kind of like I got into the VR scene, and that's when it just kind of
Okay. So what pulled you into VR and VR chat to begin with from where you started?
So the very beginning was actually the PlayStation VR, right? I was following that like day in and day out, right? And then I finally got a PlayStation VR. I convinced my parents that I could get one, right? And it kind of got me into that VR. And then you start learning more and more about VR, and sooner or later I found out about VRChat, right? And I was like, man, I wanted to play VRChat so bad. It's not on the PlayStation. So,
no. Yeah, I got a question for him.
Oh,
I got a question for you, and everything else like this. Since he started saying that he came into VR, what was? And I asked this of everybody. When you first came into VR and put your headset on and everything else, what was the worst thing you ever saw and you had to leave? You just going, no.
The worst thing I ever saw. Well, I was a nerd. I was playing Star Wars. I was playing this. It's like this Star Wars Battlefront, and it, immediately puts you to a ship, and that's when I learned about motion sickness.
Oh,
I got sick the day of that same damn day. I was like, okay, get this off of me.
Gotcha.
Motion sickness. So from when you got into VR chat, what led you to the rave scene that inspired you to continue going with music and stuff?
Right. So I got into VRChat when I was able to get my Quest 2. This was when I was 17. exploring the worlds and stuff. And at the moment, there was a Quest friendly slash PC VR world for club. I forgot the name of it, right? Because it was just so long ago. But I was like, man, I really want to get into this. But I don't really feel like I should be here because I'm not 18. Sooner or later, I turned 18. And then I was like, oh, I can actually participate in this. So I got into that, went to the rave. I really enjoyed it. And again, I didn't even have my PC yet. So I was just trying to like figure out a way to like I was like, man, I saw the DJs up there. They were just performing. I was like, man, I want to be like that guy. So when I was finally able to get my Quest connected to my PC, and I'm telling you that the cord I used was like the cord that you got for charging. It was just like less than a foot connected to my PC. There was one time I almost yanked my PC off my desk because I was just trying to make it work.
Hey, what's wrong? Hey, how's your gaming going? I don't know. I wish I could straighten my head up because it's facing on the table of my desk. I'm having a great time. Hey, what's wrong? Hey, how's your gaming going? I don't know. I wish I could straighten my head up because it's facing on the table of my desk. I'm having
but I finally was able to figure out a setup, and I had like my basic board, which was a DDJ SB3, which was like a a really good standard like starter board, and I was able to like sign up an application to apply for that club I wanted to play at, right? And then I finally got up on stage and kind of just kept going. And that was also the same time I started to like find other clubs, and I got my DDJ FLX6. I got invited to a birthday party. Turn was terrible, right? But I was able to get more gigs after that, and then I think my first really big performance, right, had to be like the very first Turtle Fest, if anybody remembers that, by Rolling Turtle.
I don't know what Turtle Fest is. Would you mind explaining a little bit?
It was just a festival hosted by a guy named Rolling Turtle. That was it. He just grabbed a bunch of other clubs and then created a festival. And then I was connected to this one club called VR Palace, right? And at the time, I was not playing Tear Out. I was playing Psytrance, which is trance, but like like that was the sound of the entire song. I didn't know what genres were. Like I was still trying to figure out what EDM is. I thought the most I knew about EDM was I thought trap was dubstep. And now looking back at that, that's extremely embarrassing.
I'd say so, yes.
I could see why that would be embarrassing.
So. I think, yes. I got a question for him, Juan. In the process of your DJing and stuff like this, what do you get out of it when you're up there in the booth and looking out towards everybody else? Is it the music, or is it what gives you that vibe to keep going on?
Right. Honestly, I'm not looking at the crowd when I'm performing, right? To me, the crowd is just people that are just wanting to enjoy their time. They're just wanting to listen to music. I'm in like my bubble, right? I'm up there and I'm just enjoying the music, and I'm happy to have that connection with that crowd, and just being able to enjoy like my music to them, and giving them a great time, right? So I really get like, I have ADHD. My mind is going in like 1,000 miles per second, but when I'm on that board and I'm performing and stuff, it's clear as day, right? I can think, and I have like a moment where I can like properly breathe and feel like myself, versus the rest of my life being like 1, 2, 3, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. That's really where I got out of it, and that's kind of also led me to producing, because making music gives me the exact same feeling, right? It's just off stage.
Okay. So at what moment in DJing in VR led you to want to produce music?
So that was actually after my first tour. So I had a bunch of name changes leading up to Grin, right? It first name was Happy Positivity, then it was Positivity, and with a 3 and a 1, then it swatched to Positivity, but with a 5 and a 1, right? And during that time, that was also when I did my first tour, and man, it was so much fun. And at that moment, I was playing bass house, right? Still trying to figure out what type of genre I want to listen to. I didn't know any better. But afterwards, my dad, I'm very inspired by my dad. My dad is an amazing person, right? He started making mid tempo, using like some random software. Not to throw shade, but Reaper. But it it's not random software. It's a great software, but um he was making mid tempo off of a DAW that's not even meant for EDM. And I was like, man, I want to do that too. So then I started looking through like what DAWs I should use and what was the best for EDM. And that's when I found out about Ableton, right? And I started making my first few songs, right? The very first song I ever made was Noise. And I always had like name conventions, right? And then the second song that was like kind of like low-key popular like in VRC when I played it was Come.
Interesting name.
It's in my discograph.
Well, yeah, that's a great name. That's great. I like that one. Folks, you could actually run this any direction you want to and figure it out. Wow, I came already and I'm already coming again. It's all great, no matter which way you look at it. God, I don't know where to go with that. I just want to leave it alone.
So I was making it. It was just for fun, you know.
Okay. So I have another fun question for you as well. Since you mentioned you're inspired by your dad, did you ever tell your dad about what you do here in VR?
Oh yeah. So that was a really interesting conversation, and like my dad instantly understood it, right? Because he was, you know, he was overperforming. He performed as a punk in the like 80s, moving 90s, right? And you know, you perform wherever you can. You know, if you get a gig, you just do it, right? I don't care if it's like 5 hours away. You're gonna drive and do a gig because that feeling you get up on stage is unlike any other, right? Even if it's just to like 2 people. So my dad was really understanding of like, you know, yeah, like I may not be in the club, but he could understand that there's still people like past the screen. Those are still like real life people who are listening to music and enjoying it, right? And then it was a little bit harder for my mom to understand. My mom had a really weird time, and there would be like constant back and forth with my mom about like, you know, like this is something like it's serious. I mean, like I was taking it super serious. Now I'm a little bit more relaxed. At the time I was like, man, this is my way to like, you know, performing more and hopefully actually getting out into the real world and to perform and in front of like people like right there. You know, like I can like feel that, and that feeling is much more different than VRChat.
Okay. How much of the have you done any real world showcases of your music since you started producing at all?
Yeah, so I think when I was producing, I was still going under the name of Positivity. I was going to these open decks at was and Neophoric is actually like the same people who help out run ShelterCon, right?
Yeah.
And because I live in California, I'm able to drive in there, so I can actually like get there and perform for the open decks, right? And then the first big performance I did, because I played at almost every dubstep open decks, I actually got to play for ShelterCon, which
Oh
was
wow.
like amazing. Yeah, that was like the best feeling in the world. And at the same time, I also met my extremely lovely partner that I currently have right now. I love her to absolute bits.
Well, congratulations on that. I'm very happy that you
Yeah.
found your partner here in VR.
Yeah. Yeah. Way to go.
Oh, so
Yeah. So, oh,
oh
go ahead.
yeah, no, I was gonna ask you, since you mentioned you played at ShelterCon, what was your first play at ShelterCon like? Did you enjoy it? Was the experience any similar to what you've done in VR?
It was unlike any other. Like I already made my friends in VR and got to see them in real life, and they got to see me perform in real life, and that feeling was like it was just awesome. Like being able to actually hang out with my friends in real life and just perform. And even if it was only for like I don't know, it was a very short amount of time. There was two stages. I was in the front stage, and there was the main stage. I only got 20 minutes, but that 20 minutes was like everything to me.
Mm.
You know and just being able to play my music in front of people like that was amazing. And then it's also when I started making my first EP at the same time, so I got to play some of the IDs that I had like
There you guys are.
never got to show,
Hmm.
right? That so people got to listen to unreleased music. And I think actually prior to it, like that, like maybe like a month prior, like it wasn't that much. That's when I changed my name to Grin and released the Murder Spree EP, and then played for ShelterCon.
Wow.
Really, that's the time frame of how that happened.
Okay. So since you changed your name to Grin, what made you want to change your name so many times, and what led you to Grin?
So I don't know, it was like my name changing was kind of like me like making my name smaller, right?
Mm.
So happy positivity, that's a lot of syllables. That is just that's a lot. And that was my Twitch name. So I was
Mm.
like, okay, let's make this small. So I made it positivity. And then with a 3-1, and 3-1 was like to have to create music or to be creative. And then my friends told me, the number 51 means to have positivity in your life. So that's why I had to change the number 3 to a 5, and then 5-1, 51, positivity in your life. It just made sense to me,
Mm-hmm.
right? But positivity, the 3 songs I made, making noise and then having come on your discograph is a little wonky, right? So I
Yeah.
would say that when I changed my name to Grin, it was like my coming into like, this is actually something I really want to do. Like this is like producing music is really something I really want to push forward. I really enjoy playing music, my music in front of people. So, and I want to make sure it's not just some funny little like prank or parody type of producer, right? So I changed my name to Grin, and it's still staying on that name of positivity because smiles
Yeah.
and stuff like that. We're really going into like more like horror-ish, like makes sense more for Tear Out because I'm like, so it's a little bit more gritty,
Mm.
right? So Grin just sounds gritty. It just sounds like it's not like you're not gonna be listening to like boring house music. House music's great. Okay, let's get that clear. I'm not calling house music boring. But everyone has their own style. Everyone enjoys their own types of music, and sometimes just hearing the kick is a little hard.
Okay. Well, then, since you have your own unique style, as you said, it's Tear Out, what led you to choose to do Tear Out? Why that specific genre?
So I was with my friends, and I went to my very first festival in real life. It was Hard Summer, right? And we were going around watching and listening to all the different artists that were there. I got to see Porter Robinson,
Mm.
right, in person, and me and my friends were already like dubstep heads, and I was already learning about dubstep. I was already learning about rhythm. I was learning about all these genres, right?
Mm.
And me and my friends always wanted to do this one thing. It's kind of like a tradition for like headbangers in VRChat because we don't have a rail. Like you put your foot up onto something, and then that's how you headbang.
Mm.
Um, it's just kind of like how we did it, and we always wanted to do that in real life. And then the very first Tear Out performance I've ever saw in my life was a back-to-back between Murata and Sudden Death.
Mm.
It's like two of the most prominent, like heavy, dark dubstep people just being slammed together to create like ultimate chaos. And that's also when I learned about Murata, who turned into my most major inspiration for wanting to make Tear Out. A lot of my music is still inspired by him, and I still like hold that to heart. But I also take like notes now from like other genres and kind of like branching out from there.
Okay. So, what were some of the first songs you made as a producer, and how long did it take you to learn how to produce in the genre you made? You make.
So I feel like before I like made the Murder Spree EP, there's probably like way over like 70 trash files in my computer.
Mm.
Like trash projects, like just like I had an idea, it didn't work out, I didn't really think about it, and I was like, okay, no, we need to move on to the next one, move on to the next one. You're probably gonna go for like 20 trash projects before you finally find one song that you actually really enjoy and want to keep working on, right?
Mm.
So move on to, that's how I led to Noise, that's how I led to all the other songs, that's how I led to now my EP, which is Smile, Burn, and Die, right? They had a bunch of trash projects beforehand. And then even the songs I'm releasing now, like it takes like it's getting less and less as I know what to do as a producer, right? But it definitely was difficult because it's just like trying to learn Unity or Blender or anything like that. You look at the interface and you go, why is there like 400 buttons on this one screen? How am I supposed to know what to do with all this? Like you just don't until you just figure it out and you finally understand like why certain things do what and why they're important.
Okay. So when make
Question for him, Line.
Oh, yeah, shoot.
Yeah, it's almost probably the same thing. When you're looking for that certain sound, do you know what you're looking for, and have you ever found it right off the top, or do you have, like you said, you play with it for a while before you get where you got to go? If you have it where you
Definitely.
boom, it's right there in your lap.
So sometimes it is just boom. Like sometimes it's like, man, I just made like the most banger sound in the world, right? And it's like it's amazing, and you're like, I instantly have an idea, I can work on it, right? But you're still gonna tinker on it. But most of the time though, it is like it just takes a while, right? You're still trying to figure out that sound, creating that sound. And I have like a very specific way how I create my sound design. I grab there's like millions of like bass samples out there, right? Like, and I mean like millions of those, right? So and there's this technique called layering, and which is pretty much you slam a bunch of basses together, right, to create a whole different sound, right? It's just like you have like this bass is doing a certain thing, and then this one's doing a certain thing, and then this one's doing a certain thing, and you take those certain parts and then merge them together, right? And then throw a trash can lid on it, right? And you got yourself a bass, add a sub, call it a day, right? But that takes a while. It's not, but sometimes it's instant. Sometimes you're just like, boom, I found a sound, I can work with this. But other times it's, it takes time. You got to trust in the process.
Okay. So when planning a set for DJing or an album for your producing, how do you know what order and what song you want to place there? Do you like have an idea beforehand, or do you just kind of feel it out?
So when it comes to like DJing wise, I actually completely freestyle my sets. Right? I've tried to pre-plan sets before, and they always go to hell every time. It's because I like, even though like my mind is clear, I still have like ideas being thrown left and right? And that's when I can really make like the best sets ever, is when I have like this one cool, like, oh, I have this like really cool transition I can do to this other song, right? But it's not in my library, I'm supposed to do this other transitions. Like, I don't like being constricted. So when it comes to those, it's just freestyle, just see where it is, how it's going. But when it comes to like how I order my albums or when I release music, it really has to do with like how you want the listener to like experience your music, right? Because hearing one song moving on to the other, some people will like not, I'll explain this. They won't experience it the same if they listen to like the last song moving on up, right? Because that's typically like albums have, like when you're making multiple songs, they have like a similarities to each other, right? and they may be small, but they still like there's an overarching theme that artists will create, right? So when I like ordered my Murder Spree EP, I wanted the first thing to do is be like this big over dramatic entrance, which I made Smile to be. That was definitely the first song. Burn is like the song that I was really happy to make. It was actually the first song I made, right? But I made it second in order because it didn't really have that great intro that my other songs did. And then Die was kind of like a song that kind of like it was kind of off to the side. I was working it on the side, right? I was mostly working on Burn and Smile, right? So I kind of like I still wanted to I still made it. I still wanted to finish it, right? So I ended up finishing it and placing it on the last song of the EP because it's like it's not really the rest of the sounds, right? It's a bit much more different, right? But it's still good enough to be released, you know.
Yeah. So are there So amongst all your EPs and albums that you've
Oh.
made so far, I almost died, but I'm alive. Amongst all the albums and EPs you've made, are there any songs that you hold dear to yourself that have a specific meaning?
I think the right now, "You Lose" is honestly one of the coolest songs I have ever made, and it's like the latest I've released, right? And that one is just endearing because before I released it, a lot of people were already enjoying it. I got to play it live multiple times, right? And people really loved it. But also, it still has that like video game feel because it is a video game sounding song, right? As what I was focused on that retro songs because I actually grew up on arcade games like House of the Dead and like games like that, Contra, right? My first console I ever had was a Nintendo 64. So gaming was definitely something that's like ingrained to me, right? And also coming off inspirations I've gotten from VRChat, right? And many people in VRChat are also at the same time they of course they play video games. There's a reason why we have a crazy built up PC. It's not just for Sims 4. So it was just like every inspiration I had into that song just went into it. And the next song I'm going to be releasing soon. Actually, it's going to be an EP, so it's going to be a host of songs. Is actually going to be like my inspirations based off of other genres and the people I met. Like the person that you recently just did a interview with, which was Kitsune, right? We actually collabed with on Break and Tear.
Oh wow!
Right, that was my very first collaboration, and it was a mixture of like having like breakcore type beat and like a build up and verse and going into tear out and it's possible, and then now he's kind of like getting into Jersey and stuff, right? So it has like Jersey inspirations. I've been listening to more house. He's kind of like getting into Jersey and stuff. B, just for right, so it has like are getting hello are getting added all together into all these different songs. I'm really excited to release it in the next coming months.
So another question I have for you is, what was it like doing your first collab with Kitsune, and how would a musical collab between artists work normally? Do you like pass the track back and forth, or do you work in separate parts and merge it together?
I think this one I kept most of the main project, right? Kitsune was definitely great for like different ideas and adding his I didn't really understand breakcore, right? So I needed somehow like some inspiration or somebody, right, to like add their touches who understood that community, right, and was already part of it. So Kitsune definitely helped out with ideas. We would jump into calls together and I would be working on the project. He would give out an idea. I was like, oh yeah, that's actually really cool, let's work on this, right? And then I would throw my ideas, and then we still have our kind of like our separate sections. That way, things still had like their places because we probably should have added some other stuff right into that song, right? But at the time, there were some things going on in Kitsune's life, so I ended up finishing up the song and releasing it. But overall, sometimes it's people just get sending stuff back to back, right? And other times it's just like one person holds the project and does all the work, right?
Okay.
I mean, they may be doing the work, but their ideas isn't just their own, you know?
Yeah. Okay. That's actually really awesome to know. Thank you very much. I appreciate the little bit of insight because I kind of wondered whenever you see two artists kind of do a collab together, this is this person and that person. How does like the whole process work? So thank you.
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, anytime.
yeah. Something you mentioned as well before the show that I would like to dive into is you mentioned you did VCAT's music festival as well. What was that like in comparison to what you've done prior?
So it was just like because I was always in VRChat and always performing in VRChat, and I started in VRChat, right? It just was like a natural progression of course to like put my music into
Mm.
VCAT because like I am like from the very big get go like a VR based like producer, right? That's where my origins are and will always be. That's how
Mm.
I started, right? And I always wanted to like see my music in person because there's one thing that I can experience where I'm DJing and other people listen to music, but there's the other experience I can't, which is hearing hearing yourself play that music,
Mm.
as in like being the audience, you know?
Mm.
So when VCAT happened, I was able to see like my booth and then see like my EP screen and then just having my own little section to hear my song for the first time. It was like I could finally understand how it feels like to be that audience, to be the person who like my song for the first time. It was like I could finally understand, listen to them, right?
Mm.
For like my music specifically, right? You could feel that for other people, like how I do for Murata. Like I am a huge fan of Murata, right? But you're the one who's making all the songs and stuff, and to be surprised about like what you hear and what you listen, it's like that's a whole different feeling when it comes to your own music because you already know what your own music is. You listen to it like 700 times before you released it,
Mm.
right?
Yeah. Okay. So
So that's how it was.
another question for you as well. When you do your sets for DJing versus your production sets now with your music you release, does the process of like playing music for people change how you think about the whole thing and how you feel about what you're doing and performing, or is it still roughly the same between the two different experiences?
So I think I had to go think about one before I started producing at all, right? It was just freestyle, just play whatever I wanted, right?
Mhm.
But now it's kind of like trying to fit your music in a spot that it would make the most sense. Because of course you don't want to like play like I mean I'm still a starting producer. I've only been doing this for like a year. I've been playing for
Mm.
VRChat since I was 18, right? But I've only been producing really for like a year.
Mm.
Um so it's trying like to fit it in a spot where it's like there's been this huge, awesome, amazing song, and then I mean, my first songs I could say they're mediocre because I was still trying to learn, right? So you have this much amazing song, and then you have like this much low, like your song, which is not as well produced and stuff, and people are gonna see
Mm.
that, right? And think of
Mm.
that as like an automatically bad song, right?
Mm.
So you kind of want to place it into like similar like genres. That's when I started meeting other artists, right, and listening to their music and playing their music in sets because it's more like an equal playing field, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And everybody has that opportunity to shine, right? Versus the already established artists whose music is amazing, like godly. Like man, you listen to them, you're like, man, I wish I could make that
Mm.
type music. And when you're trying to compete against that, it's much harder versus having the equal playing field of the same type of like as well produced songs all together, right? So that not only can you shine your friends'
Oh, I
music,
like all this
which is just
stuff. It looks
as
so
important,
lively. Hell yeah.
community and
This is
connections, right?
fucking cool.
Mm.
But you can also have your music to shine as well, right? So everyone kind of gets their share,
Okay.
which is how it should be.
So another question I have for you as well is, do you have any people that helped you along the way within the rave scene, or do you have anyone you admire from the VRChat rave scene as well?
Oh, stop? Okay.
Honestly, everybody. I,
Mm.
I feel like the scene doesn't really work on individuality, right? I could have not completed my tours if it wasn't for the lovely club owners and the lovely staff and
Mm.
security and dancers and dancer schedulers and everybody who worked on it. That tour would not have been possible. Sure, it's like it was. I always told myself at the end of the day, it was like, sure, my name is on it, right? But it's not just about me,
Mm.
right? It's same as like all these other performances. It was actually more of a like a way for me to perform because I was going through school, right? And
Mm.
school and work is a lot of time. So my time trying to spend on VRChat to like, being developed in the community was very small,
Mm.
right? So I was like, how do I work with this? You're supposed to be like part of the community. You need to really talk to people. You need to like be there for them. And how are you supposed to do that when you have no time? Well, so you just do it a whole different way. And I remember there are plenty of DJs who their first performances was on the tour, right?
Mm.
And they finally were able to like get started and do like get into the VR scene, as well as like staff who are still trying to learn to be hosts or dancers who didn't really get much performances, right? Of course, there are plenty of people who've done it for way over for a long time, but it was really those moments that like really allowed me to understand like just how much everybody needs the help, right?
Mm.
And how we previously talked about like Anzac Angelo is an amazing person. All the people at Schism are amazing. Um, all the people at Reflect, which are also my like closer friends. All the VJs, G Pot, crumb cakes, like everybody. It's just so much people that need the help to work on making this thing possible, right?
Mm.
And it definitely just doesn't have space for that. Like, you can do it solo because that's not possible.
Mm.
Every event does not work solo. You can't. I mean, maybe you can host a small party by yourself, right? But when you're trying to do like these huge, large things, it's definitely not easy and definitely not possible trying to do it all by yourself.
Okay. Something you said kind of harked back to a couple of things I've heard people say prior, and I will say some of the best late game VR chat content I have found to be is providing a first time experience for someone else who's never done it. I think that's probably the most rewarding things you could do for almost anybody. It's like if they've never DJ'd before, like you said, and you provide them on your tour to or someplace that experience. And it seems like the best late game VR chat content I could think of anyway, besides running communities. Hello, just real quick, I'll only take a few seconds of your time. In the description that way you have a card, metaversedegen.card.co. We have many links down there for you to come check out. We have an X link, which is with me. We have a Discord where we hang out and do stuff all the time, as well as a Patreon link, where if you wish to support us, you can. Where there's also a show and another podcast separate from Metaverse Degen, which we have available to our wonderful members who signed up, such as Niche, Training Fangs, Aliquum, and Forbidden Zero. Thank you all. You're all amazing. Enjoy the rest of your video. I won't take up any of your time.
Right. Yeah, it's just trying to give back to that community who's already giving you so much, right? Everyone's doing your part, right? I mean, but at the end of the day, I'm still a person who just like makes music, and like the tours were great, and I gave those experiences, right?
Mm.
But at the same time, I still like there's some people who didn't really agree with the whole tour based system, and honestly, at the
Mm.
time, there was only like a few people who were doing it, which
Mm.
was I think the first tour that ever happened. I was like trying to scroll back all the way through VRChat Party Hub just to like learn how other people did their tours,
Mm.
right? Was Muzz, right?
Yep.
And then Anumi did their VRChat tour, which was the Tentacle tour, right? Then I did then after that there wasn't really any other tours, right? And I also still remember listening to like how they got opinions and stuff, and I don't really like tours in VRChat now. Going for two of them, I don't feel like they really have a place anymore.
Mm.
Um, and it's mostly because of the negative effect of I want to be like connected to this community and stuff, but some will see that as like selfishness because your name's the biggest on the poster, right? It seems as though you're trying to be over everybody. I'm not. I'm not trying to like do that at all. I'm just trying to figure out how I could perform and how I can get gigs in the general because it's super hard. And of course, some people are just not going to be able to like see that. It's like I want to give everybody the opportunity to shine, and I want to be able to give the opportunity for everybody to like be the best that they can be, right? Again, like I said, my name may be the biggest on the poster, right? When I happened at those tours, but I wasn't like the biggest person there,
Mm.
you know.
Okay. So, Mass,
Story mine.
shoot.
Lion usually asks this question, but I'm going to give it a shot and see if I don't fuck it up. What advice would you give to somebody if they come up and asked you, I'm interested in DJing or making music and stuff like this? What would you give them for advice?
I feel like honestly, if their first question was how do I how do I perform in VRChat? How do I get onto that stage? Honestly, I think you might be looking at the other way. It's more like how you get involved, right?
Mm.
Because there's a lot of ways to get involved. It's not just the stage,
Mm.
right? Every club, I've seen so many clubs shut down. Like so many. I've seen clubs pop up and then go down. I've seen like great clubs like Legends in the Field get shut down. Void, Club 808, Tartarus, and other clubs now are getting like starting to like really hurt now, right? So being involved and just talking to people, like naturally, if you're already DJing and stuff, like I would say, like you can do like DJing specifically. You would get record box, right? You would toy with some songs, right? Help maybe get yourself a board just so you can have more fun, right? So that and it does also make mixing easier. Of course, it's not necessary, but it does. Having more fun is great. So that part was like I mean DJing, honestly DJing's super easy. I can teach anybody how to DJ in a day, and they will be better than like 80% of DJs, right? Because it's really just about song structure and stuff, right? What is hard and what's much harder is just getting involved. And if you really want to be part of the community, and if you really want to like perform, and you want to like do what I was doing back in the day. Now I'm kind of like relaxed and just trying to doing it more of a hobby, right? Is that you just have to talk and you just have to participate and you just have to be there for other people. You really have to. You can't just do me all the time, right? It's definitely not just. It's everybody, and if the best way to start would be to maybe just just go to a club, just start talking to people. You'll meet the hosts, right? And sooner or later that conversation will just naturally pop up, and you'd be like, oh, I can do it, and then it just happens, right? You don't want to force these stuff, otherwise you're gonna go down a very like, and everyone, I went through it, other people went through it, this just egotistical rabbit hole that only gets you, like, just consumes you more and more and more, where you can't really get out of it. And now it's become more like you become self-isolated and in this bubble, when really at the end of the day it's just about the community and just
Gunfire. Oh God.
having fun and just being part of the rave community because it's fun, right? At the end of the day, it's for fun, right? There's no like, don't quit your day job. There's no money in this whatsoever, right? The fame is non-existent, right? Proven multiple times, way over, right? It's just for fun, and if you go too deep into like only thinking about yourself, you're gonna think that it's real when it's not. We're all just trying to, we're all explorers, and we're all trying to understand this platform. This huge blow up thing, but the time isn't now, so why not just have fun?
Okay. So I have another question for you as well. What were some of the experiences that people within the rave community have offered you that were your first, or things that you remember being important to you because the experience just stuck with you?
So it was hard because I had to try to figure out how to make a like to have like a way to be connected, right?
Mm,
Like the first clubs I ever went through were like applications, like just saying like I want to DJ for this club. You sign up for a DJ application, and the club's gonna pick you. If they say they want you or not, right? But of course, they would be much more likely to, that's why I say, being connected to the community are much more likely to if you are already like participating
mm,
and stuff like that. But the opportunities that I've been given really have just again just been have just naturally come in conversation. Like
mm,
the whole tour conversation, I asked a bunch of people, like, how would this be possible? Would you be interested in this?
mm,
Right? And they'd be like, yeah, I don't mind, right? And then for other times, you have to kind of convince people, be like, yeah, this is something that's going to be super fun, right? And they're a little like itched out by it,
mm,
right? But at the end, if you just know what you're doing and you talk to them properly and just they know you're involved in the community, right?
mm,
People will just naturally give you that opportunity. It's just because you become trusted. You're not just somebody who's only sticking it out for themselves, and when the time comes when they need you the most, you're going to start running, right? They actually trust that you're going to be there to help,
mm.
and if they trust you and you will be there when they need help, then they'll just naturally give you that opportunity.
Okay. So you mentioned a few times that you've been on tour here, VRChat. What made you choose to do tours versus the typical what most people in VRChat music scene would do, like going club to club?
So I mean, like mostly the first tour was mostly inspired by a Numi's tour because I
Mm,
saw how amazing that was, and I was like, man, I want to do that too. Of course, everybody would,
mm,
right? But it was mostly again just from the fact that I just didn't have enough time to be as connected as I wanted to be in the community. Like I
mm,
said before, it was just I just didn't have the time to. So I focused more on outside, like communicating and being part of the community outside of VRChat, right?
mm,
Because inside VRChat, it's just participating, go to events, and going to open decks, enjoying and
mm,
raving and all that stuff, right? But outside of it, it's just talking to people, hanging out with them, like playing video games on Discord, right? That type of stuff, right? And that's a great way to also be connected. You don't just have to be in VRChat,
mm.
right? All the time. You can do other things with other people and become friends with them that way, right? So that was really like, and I still wanted to perform, so it was definitely that reason. It's just lack of time. I just didn't have enough
Okay.
time to like naturally do it. And if you do, it's the same thing because at the end of the day, a tour is just a glorified schedule.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So, from everything you've done and are able to experience from within VRChat, how much of that were you able to take into your real life and what with what you do, as from what you like learned or picked up over time?
So some people they practice every single day DJing. VRChat was a way for me to practice, right?
Mm,
It gave me an excuse to like, I can put down the pen and paper on my homework and start, to start DJing, and then I practiced up on stage, learning new mixes and stuff like that because I'm not getting paid,
mm,
right? No one's getting paid, so that kind of has still keeps that underlayer of it's just for fun
mm,
reason at the end of the day, right? So those DJ skills translated immensely when I started going into the real world, and they were like, damn, you can DJ. Like you can play music like really damn well, and like I said, it's easy to DJ. Like I can teach anybody in like a day, right? But it's one of those easy to learn, like hard to master, because it's like it just gets deeper and deeper, and it depends on how deep do you want to learn,
Mm.
because there's basic song structure of just trying to being able to do basic transitions between songs, to doing like wordplay, to scratching, to hot cue play, to all these other techniques. It just depends on how deep you want to go, and VRChat gives me that opportunity to practice my craft, and of course to meet other people who are on the producer side. um get opinions about my music, find other people who are also producing and see their ideas and how they make music, right? And then that translates to how I can produce and learn new techniques and types, because it's the exact same thing. It's like, how deep do you want to learn? Do you just want to learn the basic stuff and just pick up a guitar and start making some songs? Because yeah, you can do that. Or do you want to go deep and learn about mixing and mastering and EQing, and how much of the saturation you need, or like what type of plugins you want to be using, or those types of sounds that you're looking for? Hell, which kick to pick out of the millions of kick samples that you have in your library, like that type of stuff. It just depends how deep you want to go.
Okay. So, as you mentioned, like when you brought your DJing skills in the real world and they were surprised by your skill, when you oh no. Blah, blah.
Oh,
I'm alive. I haven't
There he
died
comes.
yet.
Hold it in
So-
there, boy. Hold it. Yeah. It's still
So-
kicking.
When you went into the real world and brought your skills in the real world and people were surprised and you explained to them where it came from, what were the general reactions?
so honestly, when people like heard about VRChat, they don't like they have, it's like there's like they seen the videos, right? I mean, like I feel like everyone has seen the "Do you know the way" meme,
Mm.
right? And they know that stems from VRChat, right? So they have like this already predetermined idea around VRChat, right? When I start telling them about all the performances I do, and I have videos of my performances that I get to
Yeah.
show them, right? And they look at that and it's like, man, that's cool as hell. Like it just looks like just any other club in the world that you can just like, just like that club probably exists somewhere, and they see that and they kind of have this form of like respect for it. But also like sometimes I can feel like kind of like embarrassed because I didn't really perform as much in real life, and I'm like I'm being connected with these people who have been like playing for like huge crowds, because there's no player limit in real life. So it can be any amount. They play for huge crowds and stuff, and you can kind of feel like maybe you might feel embarrassed. But honestly, over time, I've learned to not be embarrassed about it. There's nothing embarrassing about it, right? Everyone's got to start somewhere, and everyone has a different opportunity somewhere. And mine just happened to be VRChat. And it's also how I promote VRChat. I've told people how they could perform in VR, and had like IRL people perform often in VRChat
Oh, wow.
many of times over, and I've taught some people. So it's like it's amazing, right? So it's just how I guess giving back to the community of we have this overarching goal of like making this just for everybody, and making this like a thing that everybody can do. Because right now, I mean, the fee again to play VRChat is getting like, I guess it's free, right? But you need to get a computer, right? But if you want to get into VR, then it costs more money, So
Yeah. The most expensive free game you'll ever get into.
indeed,
Mm.
indeed.
doubt.
Besides Warframe.
Why is Warframe more expensive than
Yeah.
VRChat? Because headsets are $1,000, full body's about $500 to $800. Then there's the PC, which can range from $800 to more money than my car.
It's because I never get my 3,000 hours back.
Fair.
Well, that makes sense. Well, he lost his hour situation there, folks, and you're going, goddamn, where'd the change go? It's not in the jar no more. Some bitch, there went those times.
Well,
Yeah, I hear you there.
playing off some of the things you said, like not being embarrassed by what you do in VR, one of the things we've heard from a lot of people who've done real world stuff from VRChat, like stemming from, is one of the things that I think is most common is because like people in your shoes, like musicians or VR DJs who started here, you have a lot more experience, opportunities to play than people who only do real life. Yeah, they do larger shows, but you still have to travel from point A to point B versus, oh, cool, I'm going to go from Shelter to Rift. Let's just click the button, loading screen, bing, bam, you're in a new place. And then you get to play for that. And the only limit from that point is not like the travel time, but instead your ability to log those places to be there.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a difficulty. Like there's stuff. It really just it's based on location, right? I can't just travel all the way to Denver and go into Dubstep Central, right?
Mm.
I have to find specific places, and you have to settle with certain clubs that you may not like particularly like, but there's a certain artist who's playing there, so you can really enjoy them. There is that, but and of course the money, the cost to like travel somewhere, right? But I also bring the counter argument of the money that we have spent into VRChat, right? When you put that money into like real life, it actually tends to like equal out.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, the entry fee, right? I mean, is desktop,
Yeah.
right? But of course, people, they want to experience like raving, right? And the best way to experience raving is in VR. And of course, some clubs have gotten flack for that. Like, I remember the time when the Heist got flack because they made their club VR only,
Yeah.
right? It has to be the most expensive ticket. You like, I literally say this. The amount of money that we spent on VR, like buying a headset, getting trackers, controllers, and when your headset breaks, you gotta buy a new one, or when your controllers breaks, you gotta buy a new one.
Hmm.
I probably could have gone to Lost Lands twice,
Okay.
which
That's
is
a
a
fair
3-day
point.
festival out in Ohio. That's where it tends to kind of equal itself out, right? But I mean, there is one advantage that I can't deny. I don't think anybody can deny is that it is definitely much safer,
Mm.
right, in VR than it is in real life, but not that drastically so. Like, I mean, yes, there are things that happen in festivals, right? Those same things can happen in VRChat. If anything I learned about this week, right, with how my Twitter feed's been going, is that there is definitely scum on the earth, and that also leads to scum in VRChat as well, right?
Mm.
But that's not always the case, though,
Yeah.
right? So as long as you understand that you're not supposed to do certain things, and use your brain, and like don't just accept drinks from strangers, don't drink water from strangers, only do stuff that you can really trust, right? Like, as long as you follow those basic rules, the safety is not that much more,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I very much can understand. Between some of the people you played with in real life, only real life, and some of the people you played with in VR, is there any differences between the two categories of people?
um just the avatar. Honestly, these people are the same.
Okay.
They act the same. They like. I mean, this is also. I guess my partner bring up brain is that some in VR chat people can create a character with their avatar, right?
Mm.
Versus and when they come into real life, they act a completely separate way,
Mhm.
right? I mean that does exist, but I'm gonna assume that people are being genuine to who they are,
Mhm.
right? In VR chat, and in that case, when they're if I assume that they're being genuine, then everyone it's pretty much the same. Everyone's still got ADHD,
Mm.
so
Okay.
everyone's still a little kooky. But there's no problem with that. The rave scene is just, but the only difference is that I can actually touch people, and I have to be of course careful of my space, right? but that feeling of being really connected, and even if it is super packed and you can't really move and you can barely dance, that feeling being in the crowd is still no different than what from VRChat. And I mean, I wish VRChat had that same feeling, right? And it doesn't. So, it's give or take.
Mm. So, which do you prefer playing in real life or VR? Do you have a preference between the two?
Definitely in real life.
Mm.
It's how you can feel, because in VR, if you want to feel the music, you need to get a haptic vest, right? And it still isn't the same, right? Versus in
Mm.
real life, being there and seeing that person, and two vibes colliding properly with one another, right?
Mm.
And you can feel the music, you can hear it, and being that close to each other, it's still different versus VRChat. It's too easy to turn down the world volume, right? Right, you
Mm.
can't turn down the world volume in real life. You wear earplugs.
Mm.
So that kind of like in VRChat Rave community, it's kind of like it's interesting, right? And definitely when I took a step away, because after my second tour, I completely like took a hiatus on VR. I did my last performance on Bo and said, I'm gone. Bye guys. It was really fun. Thank you for everything, right? And only recently have I decided to come back because end all be all, I have extra time.
Okay.
I'm out of school right now, so I sooner or later that I'll get more time and maybe less. But it's more of like a hobby right now. I feel like I should really keep it as is, because even in real life, it's still a hobby. It doesn't
Mm.
nothing really changes. I still don't get paid.
Yeah.
So
Fair enough. Well, then, if you're doing this for fun, what keeps you doing it and even keeps you coming back even after hiatus?
the community for sure.
Mm.
Like it's the people, right? It's what we're doing right now. It's definitely the people. Because if it wasn't for the people I've met, if it wasn't for the wonderful people who have helped me again, like do the performance I've done, if it wasn't for the wonderful communities that have been created, right? All of this, there would have been no reason to,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
But I do think there's still one thing that's missing in VR chat, and that's Plur. Plur
Mm.
kind of keeps everybody connected in real life.
Mm.
If you don't know what Plur is, it's peace, love, unity, and respect.
Mhm.
Used to be a different term beforehand, until something bad happened at a
Nice.
festival.
Wow.
Then they changed the
Even
last
rail
letter to
services.
R for
How
respect.
cute.
Mm.
I feel like that's just one thing that we really,
Hey,
for
you're
the rave
threatening me with a
community, to really
sword.
shine,
Hang on, can you actually like step on this
because
thing?
it just needs it,
Oh, you can sit
Mm.
right? It sometimes
Oh,
you
yeah,
can
so
feel
you can
so
sit on it.
divided at
Okay.
moments,
Alright,
right?
yeah,
When
that's
if we
alright.
really want to
Alright.
get to
I'm getting
this,
off the
get
crazy
this
train before it starts,
space,
though. 'Cause I actually
to
wanna
the
see.
place that we
I
really
actually
want
want
it
to
to
see
be,
booths.
it's gonna we gotta have
That's
something that
so cool.
connects
We have
us all
people
together
volunteering to
to
do this.
really
That's
work
insane. I
together
love
and
it. I
bring
love it. That's so
ourselves
cool.
together. Because without Plur, I don't think even the real life community could make it, because people would be too divided,
Mm.
way too divided. And right now, I feel like right now we are very divided, especially again. My Twitter feed's been amazing. It's been pretty fun looking at what's been happening. But I feel like this is like we have been the most divided as a community than we have ever been before,
Mm.
right? And there's been multiple times that we've been like separated from each other when we talk about money or talk about what's going on right now or anything, but right now it's definitely, I feel like it's our lowest point, and we
Mm.
really need to come together and work together if we really
Mm.
want what we dreamed for VRChat to be, which is for like everybody to be in it,
Mm.
to have the rave scene blow up.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I've noticed over the years I've been in VR chat, with all the weird things that's happened from EAC to funny videos coming out that recently, as an example, no matter what things divide the VR chat community, they always end up coming back together. Like, I'll use EAC for an example. That is the most angriest I've seen the VR chat community during my time here. I'm sure people who've been here longer can come up with other things, but at least in my time. But even a year after, the same people's like, I'm never coming back to VR chat. I'm going to chill out. This place fucking sucks. Fuck this place. EAC ruined VR chat. And then a year later, they're back here playing out with their friends as if EAC never was included. So no matter how much people get divided, we always end up coming back together in the end. And sometimes, like siblings, you kind of have to have those fights and arguments out in order to make things better. Because how can you know if something's wrong if you never verbalize it?
I agree, but I also disagree for the reason why they're coming back. I agree in the fact that, like, that, sometimes we just have to fight to figure out something that's better, right? I mean, that's why we have conversations. That's how we have discussions, right? That's important. When you stop talking is when everything goes to crap. But the main reason why I disagree at the same time, however, is mostly because there isn't I mean, technically and illegally, there are competitors of
Yeah.
VRChat. There is Chill Out, there is Neos, there is whatever other. There's another VR application being made just for VR concerts and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But none of them come into scale of VRChat.
Yeah.
Right? What ends up making them, because I went to Chill Out too. All right, I was one of those people that went on that boat when the EAC happened.
Okay.
Right? Because it was just I could even put on high priority on VRChat. I have a potato PC. I need it for performance reasons, right? I need my performance stuff so I don't blow up, right? When I went to Chill Out, it was like, yeah, it doesn't have EAC, but it was like worse in every other way. I mean, I bought index controllers. Why do I want to turn off my finger tracking? Why is that a why is that a button? It was a button on your controller just to turn off finger like that. I don't and other features that were just like hard to even figure out how to get to your friend's world. How do I even friend somebody, right? VRChat has made that simple, right? And definitely it's the size of community that is in VRChat that, trying to just swap an entire platform, I don't really think is just like possible. And I feel like that's like where I disagree. They'll go to Chill Out, they'll go to Neos and stuff, but then they'll figure out that it's actually worse there than it is in VRChat and just come back. Like they'll go to Chill Out, they'll go to Neos, because in that sense it would be the only one in existence. But it kind of is the only like good instance of what we have right now. Until something else happens that can actually compete. At the moment, there's nothing that can compete with VRChat.
No. I hope whatever company comes up is able to compete with VRChat, just isn't a crypto bro. I've seen some of the stuff those crypto bros create, and it makes me want to die.
Yeah, me too. I don't the whole crypto thing. And I remember people were talking about when VRChat was like adding virtual currency, they thought that was going to be like some crypto thing too. It's just hopefully a way to give back, an easier way to give back to the the people that you enjoy. But like, yeah, but then again, maybe the hot take coming in here, is that if we want to make money, it might have to be possible, but also I hate it at the same time. That's like one of those like, if we really wanted to blow up and be like Ready Player One, in Ready Player One, well, the money that they had in VR, like in the VR space, they could use to buy real life products.
Yeah.
Right. So I have like, like if you want that, right, it's gonna have to exist whether you like it or not. Right.
Well, this
Right.
may be my hot take a little bit, but I think how VRChat's trying to introduce the currency is a lot better than if you were to look at like any of the cryptocurrency bro platforms. It's like, guess what? If you want to make a world, you spend $1,000 on a little plot of land to make 8-foot world, and that's your land. I hate that. At least with VRChat, it's like more like community oriented or creator oriented, and it doesn't seem like it's this is it or else. You kind of have options, or you can do the money, or you can do the free. You kind of have both there, and I feel like the VRChat community kind of is playing with the idea a little bit with some of the things you've seen worlds and creators use it for. So I think as people are testing waters, you may not see the terrible, horrible thing that people imagine money would do. Maybe, hopefully.
I guess only time can tell. Like
Mm.
I said, as at the moment, it's really just it's still I feel like it's still in its infantile state for the entire VR scene, right? It's still trying. It's like we are currently trying to reinvent the Rave scene or these other communities in VR chat all over again. And of course, that's gonna it's naturally gonna take some time before we really try to figure things out. I mean, like I said, a lot of people thought that EAC wasn't necessary, but some people would completely disagree and say it was completely necessary because the things that hackers could do, I mean, yeah, sure, ripping avatars and stuff, yeah, that's like on the scale of bad things that a hacker could do, that's like down here. That's
Yeah.
like all the way down here. It's like, yeah, it's like monetary value stuff, right? But the higher stuff is that, they can get your IP addresses, they can get even higher, and they can start breaking your PCs completely, right? Bricking it, right? Or doing other things. That's the worst of things. And I'm a cybersecurity major, and I understand this type of stuff exists,
Mm.
right? So some form of security is needed. Was it implemented? Great. No, that shit was terrible. VRChat did it in the worst way absolutely possible. Everybody could agree with that. ESA was implemented so terrible because of accessibility, because they did not add any accessibility features whatsoever. They were just like, all right, EAC's here, and if you had mods for accessibility so you can even play the game, that doesn't exist anymore. Right? And so then they had to start adding those accessibility features, and if they did that beforehand, then added EAC, I think the flack that they got for it would have been like much lower to like almost non-existent. Right? But they didn't.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. They should have implemented it quietly without saying why they're implementing it. Although I understand why they kind of dropped it without warning either, because you don't want to give those groups of people who make and work on those mods time to counteract what you're doing either. I think that's probably one of the reasons. I'm not with the devs or never talked with any. That's me only assuming, mind you. At least that's the way I would think about it. So I don't want to give them any time. Oh, hey, we're using this specific security program, and we're going to do it in about 1 week. So you have 1 week to look at current ways to go around and do your thing anyway. I don't want to give them that opportunity. At least I wouldn't anyway.
No, that's definitely that's a cybersecurity thing, right? But it's not a one-time battle where it's like, here's EAC, all hackers are gone. No, there's still hackers. There's definitely not somebody who can just download them like a hacker. But the only hackers that exist are hackers. It wasn't just some person who downloaded a mod to be an a-hole. Right? So definitely the lower tier people who just downloaded a mod and make it a quick a-hole don't exist as often. I mean, there's still some are able to find it, but they have to go through loops, and EAC will pick it up and then kick them, and then they'll have to do some other stuff, right? But the big boy hackers, they still exist, and they still can brick your PCs and stuff like that, but that number of people is small. And I mean like very small. So and
like, where the
you
fuck
definitely don't want to give them time to be able to like prepare for that, right? So when EAC dropped, they had to redo their scripts, but then sooner or later they'll fix it and then be able to combat EAC, and then EAC will make things to combat them. It's an ongoing battle, and that battle will never cease to end, right? For undeniable future. It is war.
Yeah. Well, I see EAC as like a locked door. Is a locked door ever going to stop someone from kicking in your door and stealing things? No. But most people, when they go to the door and start jimming it and see it's locked, like, oh, I'll just try the next guy. Maybe they left the door unlocked, and most people just kind of move on, and EAC is like that locked door. Is it going to help everything? No, it's not going to. But it's there as a deterrent, which is better than leaving your door unlocked.
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel like that's just the main. It was developed again, implemented terribly. Just still needed though. Still very needed. And being there for that when that change happened. I mean, man, and I was one of those people that had mods. So I mean, everybody did. Everybody had mods. So of course I was affected.
Yeah. Fun fact: I never was. I never used mods at any point in time in VRChat. I was with people that saw the personal mirror thing and thought it was the most fantastical thing in the world. As my friends who use mods, like, that's been in mods for a while. It's like, but it's here now.
Yeah, no, for sure. And other accessibility features like earmuffs
Mm.
or hiding avatars and stuff like that.
Mm.
That was
Yeah.
why I did only for like mostly performance-ish reasons and
Mm.
making life easier in VRChat. There's still got a long way to go, but we're getting there closer and closer.
Mm. Indeed. Well, I will say, Grin, thank you so very much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure learning all about you from your origins to your tours. It's been amazing. So thank you very, very much, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
This is
It's been
very
really fun to
interesting.
talk about it. Yeah.
So where can the audience find you if they wish to reach out and find you?
Honestly, the best thing you could do for me is just listen to my music on Spotify. That
Mm.
is the biggest is the biggest thank you that you could ever give me. And just enjoy what I do. And then if you see me in VRChat, say hi, right? I honestly just I don't know, just and be part of the community, right?
Mm.
Being part of everybody, talking and hanging out and raving. Just enjoy it. Enjoy your time here.
Okay. Well, before I pass it off to Raptor here to finalize a thing, I will leave the audience here a question. What is some of your favorite music? Whether it's VR chat or real life, let us know in the Hoobly What's It Down that way. Well, Mr. Raptor, you know the thing.
Well, I'll give it. Hi, camera. How you doing? The biggest thing out there, folks, is no matter what, how you play it, spin it, is what they say, I guess, in the way of a DJ. Knowing I'm not one, thank God, because it sound probably like a record that somebody ran over with a DC cat. And if you see that cat, tell him to spin it the other way. You might get a better sound, even what I can play. We'll talk to you later. Have a good one, folks. Bye.